Hi, you guys. I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded some fresh content. I mean, I have uploaded new content, but I don't consider it fresh because it was pre-recorded. But I have been handling my business. I'm changing over my career. We talked about this in one of the videos where I was saying that it was called Change My Life. I'll link it below. But I've been working on my new business, and since that's the main money maker, I've been putting more attention into that than anything else. And unfortunately, I haven't figured out that YouTube work-life balance kind of thing. But nevertheless, I'm here now, and we will get started on the next video. Let's get into it. Okay, so one of the things that I had thoughts about that I figured I'd talk about this time is I've been dating. It's not about me dating. I've been dating, and what I've run across in my healing process, in my manifestation process, and the whole shebang about getting to know another human being is, one, how my traumas and how my past experiences are affecting my actual dating life moving forward. Now, let's be clear, because I know I'm not the only one. I've been seeing this trend where everybody is having a very hard time connecting with people on more of a emotional level. You know what I'm saying? More of a vibing type of level. And one of the things that I think is going on is that our defenses are way too high. Not to say that you shouldn't have defenses, but they are too high against each other, if you get what I'm saying. So if my defenses are up and the person I'm trying to talk to's defenses are up, how do we come to a middle ground where we can be safe enough to let each of our defenses down without feeling like we're going to get taken advantage of for the second time, third time, fourth time, or fifth time? So what we're going to talk about today is, how do you know if you're self-sabotaging your relationships, whether that be friendships, family ships, dating ships, significant other ships, whatever ship you're sailing on. How are you, if you are self-sabotaging those relationships? What traumas can cause negative effects in relationships? And if you carry toxic traits, and basically if you are the problem. Now, before we get into it, if you're new here, hi, welcome. And if you are a subscriber, welcome back. My name is Love Spell, Queen with the Pen. And on this channel, we upload a bi-weekly podcast that goes into various subjects like shadow work, manifestation, and how to vibe high and stay there. If this seems like something you're interested in, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. We about to stir up this pot. Y'all ready or not? So, self-sabotaging behavior is things that you do that unconsciously ruin what you actually wanted to happen. It's doing things underhandedly that undermine the very thing that you were trying to accomplish. A lot of people do these things without knowing, in order to prevent themselves from reaching their goal, so that they don't have to be riddled by failure or guilt if they don't reach their goal. There are many ways in order to sabotage your own victories, but the main way it starts is through negative thoughts. And those negative thoughts come from fears and past trauma that has happened to you. So for example, someone who is scared of abandonment is going to fear their partner leaving, is going to fear their parents not being there for them, is going to fear that that friendship is never going to actually be something solid. So what a person like that will do is either one, get up and run before it actually happens to them in order to not have to face the abandonment they assume is going to happen anyway. Or that person will act in fear throughout the whole relationship, guilt tripping the other family member, friend, or person of interest into believing that that's what they were going to do until that person becomes fed up. In essence, creating their own abandonment. It's an oxymoron, but it happens most often all the time. Now, here's the thing. Once it is confirmed, once that person runs off, then that fear is now reinforced. And that person will continue to let out this cycle over and over again until they figure out that they are the ones who is doing the sabotaging. Sometimes people stay in denial to the point that they never do. To me, the most ironic thing about, a self-sabotager is that those are usually the people that seek out the relationship in the first place, because they are the ones that are most codependent. See, the thing about being abandoned is that, or having this abandonment type of personality, is that what they fear is what they want. It's like loving something but being scared to love it. It's like when a young man really falls in love with a girl and his homies is like, you're a stab. It's like that. And so he's not going to tell it. He's not going to say it or whatever. It's that internal feeling of, I shouldn't love anybody because I'm scared that they're going to hurt me, that they're going to run off, that they're never going to be there for me, that they just go. No one's ever meant to stay type of mentality. I'm sure some of you guys have been in those words before. And that ideology says or convinces yourself that you are not worth what you want, and therefore you always get what you don't. It's a continuous cycle, and it's something that needs to be broken. But when you recognize this in yourself is when you can break it, and never a moment before. If you're a self-sabotager, you'll find uncomfortability in peace. So when things are looking really great, things are looking really good, you haven't heard any problems, you haven't had any issues. Maybe you're dating someone new and they seem like a dream, or you've been in contact with your family members, maybe a mom or a father, and everything seems to be going way too good. And you're waiting for the second shoe to drop and it doesn't. And so you start to create chaos in order to confirm what your eerie feeling is. When you are uncomfortable with the peace, you probably are the problem. Now, don't get your socks all on the wrong foot. At some point, we all have been the problem, because everyone has experienced traumas, everyone has their own sets of fears, and everyone self-sabotage in some form or fashion or the other. And as you grow as an adult, you will find the things that you're doing that actually hinder you rather than promote growth. The idea is not to be upset with yourself for the mistakes that you made. No, those were learning curves. But you have to recognize that sometimes you are the one that needs to make the change and not someone else. The most important one, I believe, is living a facade. A lot of times when you self-sabotage, it is because you want something that you feel like you can't obtain, that eludes you from some reason. And so a lot of times, to create a defense, a person will become angry, bitter, combative, defensive, and they'll start to create this facade in order to protect themselves from further damage. So this is when you meet someone who is combative off top. Like, they're trying to get to know you, but the whole time their defenses are up and everything is like a fight, or who you talking to like that? You know what I'm saying? You're like, whoa, slow down. Or you run across somebody who has this like tough guy attitude and nothing bothers me and I could care less if you're here or not. Like, that's self-sabotaging. How are you getting anywhere with that? I mean, you would have to be with someone who has absolutely no self-esteem. And that is, you think it's for protection. It's really egoic. It has your ego doused in it, and you think that you're getting somewhere with it, but really it's stopping you from gaining anything you want. It's just preventing you from being hurt. And with anything, when you take a gamble, you might lose hard, but sometimes you win big. And it's a chance you have to take when you step out and deal with other people. I think the one that I despise the most is the people who like to have other people join in on their misery. Those are the Facebook posters that always have negative posts about the opposite sex, or they always have like something to say about, things that people do in the world, like, wearing wigs, or, posting pictures, or whatever people do. They have like such a negative statement about it. And I think it's so that people will feel like they don't like anything. And that's why they're not getting what most people want. It's a facade. And I think that's the saddest one, is because it doesn't really, you would have to change your whole persona, what you're putting out there, how you're allowing people to perceive you in order to fix that. You've also, instead of creating or fostering good relationships or just sabotaging the ones that you have, you are creating enemies. Because being disrespectful, hurtful, and angry and bitter just creates enemies. No other way to put that. So I'm going to give you a quick reality check. If you are the type of person who is walking down the slope of being bitter and angry and self-sabotaging, take a look at your social media feed. Whatever social media that you enjoy the most, that you like to scroll up on, take a look at that social media feed. And then every video, when you look at it, is it positive or is it negative? Is it against something or is it for something? Because if your feed, now, let's be clear, because you can say, "Oh, that's social media. That they post those things. How does that have anything to do with me?" But anybody who knows anything about social media knows that everybody's algorithm is a little bit. Social media's algorithm is one thing, but our personal feeds are all tailored towards what we enjoy watching. It is so scientific and so mathematical. It counts down how many seconds you stay on one video. And so it'll continue to keep feeding those types of videos to you, because that is consciously or subconsciously, for the most part, what you enjoy. So if you are scrolling, and I mean be objective, if you are scrolling and everyone is negative, that's talking about this, that's talking about that. And when I say negative, because we like to be in denial, if it's not straightforward negative, you don't want to admit to it. No, if it doesn't have a positive statement attached to it, if it's just a statement, but you can't pull a positive thing out of it, then it is negative. Now, if you find that there are more negative feeds, more negative videos, more things talking about everything but you on your feed, you are running a slippery slope, baby. And what I'm telling you is that this is time to make the change, not because anybody else wants you to make that change, but because you inevitably do. If you're sitting here listening to me, you do. You do. So you're going to have to take the time and start working on yourself. That's my lecture. So we don't become self-sabotagers overnight. We are usually done wrong, hurt, or traumatized by childhood experiences as adults, relationship experiences. Hell, we even get tortured and mistreated in school situations, elementary school, college, all of that. Our irregular existence has a lot to do with learning through trauma. And so here's the thing. You can't avoid trauma. But you can recognize that when you've been traumatized, and you can also recognize how your traumatization is coming out in your actions. And if those actions actually benefit you, or if they are something that actually takes away from you. Everybody is regularly making moves in their lives to gain them more prosperity, more peace, more abundance, so they can have these fulfilled lives, so they can have clout, so they can have feelings of grandeur, and depending on what you value the most determines what you're going to put more of your efforts into. But people will stray away from putting their efforts into certain things if they have traumas that make them feel like those things are unobtainable, or that those things are riddled with pain. The thing about trauma is that it shows up or manifests differently within each person. And there's no cookie cutter way to deal or react or work with trauma. But you can recognize about 3 things that people do when they're traumatized. The first thing they may do is shut down completely. not interact with that situation anymore. I mean, down to the littlest things, like someone, gets thrown in the pool and they can't swim and they almost drown, and now they just refuse to touch water anymore. Water's not their friend. They're not getting in a tub. I mean, not a tub. Oh, not a tub, but you get what I mean. They're not getting in a pool, and they're not getting in the ocean water. They're not getting in a lake. They won't even dip their toe in. They've been traumatized and they shut down. Then there's people who chased after what they feel was taken away from them. That's the people who maybe somebody took love from them, or maybe they had a parent who wasn't loving to them. And so they spend the rest of their life chasing after this love to the point that they allow people to damage them even more. And they're consistently living in their trauma. Then you have the other set of people who possibly have gone through the trauma, seeing that it done something to them, but is in complete denial and walks around with unhealed emotions. And basically they're wounded and they won't get stitches for their wound, and they're bleeding on everybody. Those are the people who actually reiterate trauma in others. Hurt people type of situation. So we already know how you recognize these things, right? In yourself. If you know that something happened to you and you refuse to deal with anything close to it anymore, then you know that you've been traumatized and it's something that you need to work on. It's an irrational fear. Yes, something almost happened to you because you didn't know how to do something. Like the part of I didn't know how to swim when they threw me in the water is the part that gets glazed over, while the fact that the water itself was never the danger. It was the fact that you didn't know how to swim. You know what I mean? So the trauma is not recognizing the actual space that it's come from, and therefore it becomes an irrational fear. Learn to swim, and then you will not have to deal with that anymore. That is the way you conquer that type of traumatization. So what about chasing after the thing that you feel like was taken from you? Like chasing after love. Well, the thing about chasing after other human beings is that you can only get what you want from yourself. You can't have the expectation of everybody else giving to you. But if you are in the energy that you deserve that, then it will come on its own. A lot of times when you act in desperation, things elude you. When you chase after something, it runs. I am the queen of saying that. It is a mantra. When you chase after anything, it runs. You do not chase after anything because it's going to run. You do not chase after anything. I'm going to say it again. Because it's going to run. When you are in desperation is when you make the worst decisions, you do too much, you do too little, and you overextend yourself, and you never get back the results of which you are asking for, of which you deserve. You'll only get what you can get. And that's hobo energy. So, if you are the type of person who is chasing after something, who has a desire, and only you would know this, who has a burning desire inside that is not being fulfilled and it feels like it's eluding you, that is because you need to stop chasing it and start standing still and listening to what it is that you want and need in order to let that go. Now, the last one. Being a person who recognizes that you've been traumatized, yet not seeking the necessary healing in order to make sure that you don't bleed on everyone else you encounter. For one, most people will have covered that up, and that one's a harder one to fix because you might have put yourself in so much denial that you don't see it. But here's how you can do a fact check on if that is you. Have most of your relationships, friendships, mothers, cousins, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever you love and believe in, if more than half of those ships have ended in the ship sinking with all of its crew, and you being America's most hated time and time again, and you don't feel like you despise them as much as they despise you, I mean, it's kind of spelling itself out at this point. Like, it's you, baby. It's you. And you can, at the end of the day, we're all learning. We've all hurt people. We've all been hurt by people. But if you're bleeding, just imagine, like in real terms. I'm saying if you're cut and bleeding, but if you took that metaphor and made it real and was like, yeah, I know I got problems, but I mean, I'm cut, but I'm going to bleed on you. How disrespectful and rude is that? How disrespectful. And it's creating a cycle of which no one is ever actually healing, because you have this hurt the next, hurt the next, hurt the next cycle that us healing people have to encounter. I'm a little triggered by this. The truth is that you do not have to be 100% completely healed with no trauma, no past regrets, no past situations, no defense system in order to conduct yourself in this world and have a flourishing relationship with other people. That is most definitely not the case. But being guarded is not the same thing as having boundaries. Being traumatized is not the same as having experienced trauma. Being hurt by someone is not the same as I don't care what happens to anybody, because no one cared what happened to me. You get what I'm saying? So these two things alone, working on those, will change the way you deal with people in the world, because you can't help what other people do. But your experiences can be different when you change you. You might be more toxic to yourself than you are to other individuals. Most of the time, if you're not a person who is robbing, stealing, killing, raping, murdering, abusing, beating, those kinds of lines, then a person's broken heart, they can get over. You will be the enemy later. But there's lessons to learn in that too. So stop worrying about if you're toxic or if you're not. The odds are, if you're questioning your toxicity level, you're probably not as toxic as you think. You probably wish you were more toxic than you think. The truth of the matter is that you don't have to fear being toxic. You have to fear fucking up your own shit. Now, I've been talking off your ear for long enough. Bye for now.